These days, family cars take on all shapes and sizes. There's crossovers, there's SUVs, there's MPVs. But I still think there's a lot to be said for a proper, sensible 5-door family hatchback. And if you're looking at going all electric with one, then I think this one is still one of the best that you consider, the Citroën EC4. And now Citroën have made it even better. Welcome to this week's road test review, welcome to the newly revised Citroën EC4, and as always, welcome to AutoEV. Now, before I get started on this week's quick road test review of Citroën's newly revised EC4, it is of course the time where I just have to address a small matter. You see, it would appear that there are some people that are out there who have yet to subscribe to the AutoEV channel. Disappointing to hear, but nonetheless, it is true. Now, if that applies to you, could you just make sure that you've gone and subscribed to the channel now? And then when you've done that, we'll say no more about it. Okay, go and do it now. Yeah, done that? Okay, great. Now turn on your notifications so you make sure you get an alert when the next video is uploaded and it's gone live. If you enjoyed this week's review, give it a little thumbs up for us, and of course, as always, don't forget, leave us your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let us know what you think about the cars we feature on the channel, such as the Citroën EC4, and of course on the AutoEV channel overall. Now, it's slightly quicker road test review this week. I'm sure you'll be pleased to hear that in some respects, because they've changed some bits of the car, but not a huge amount. And we've always been big fans of Citroën's EC4 at AutoEV, mainly because we all love old Citroëns. We're just a big fan of the brand. But I've always thought the car was a real sort of like winner when it first came out. I think it's a nicer car than the Volkswagen ID.3 because it plays to Citroën's strength. It's comfortable, that's the main thing about it. But of course, we know the electric car world moves quite quickly, and of course new cars have come out, other models have been revised, so Citroën has turned its attention back to the C4 to make sure that it stays competitive. Now, I did drive this car very briefly at its UK launch a few months back, and obviously this isn't a new car, it's been out a little while now, but it was only a brief drive that I had in it, so I wanted to get the car back in, spend a bit more time with it and see what it was, see if it still had that thing about it that made me always really fly the flag for the EC4, and see if it's still very competitive in a car market that has grown considerably since we first tested the EC4. Now, since then, we've also featured it in a family car test against the Peugeot Rifter and the Hyundai Kona, putting against the 5-door hatchback against the crossover and the MPV, and we've also tested it in its booted saloon guise, the EC4 Max. But as I say, this is the newly revised car. There's some new trim levels, there's some new equipment, there's new battery with the car as well, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So I wanted to make sure that it was still the car that we all remember and that we loved from before, or has it fallen behind a little bit? Let's stick it through a slightly shorter road test review and find out. Right, we're going to jump straight into styling. Obviously, it's the facelifted car, and I think it's a successful facelift. I really like what they've done with the car. I like the old car, I prefer the new one. The lights are taken sort of like inspiration from the Ollie concept, which was an AutoEV award winner a couple of years back. But I really like the way that the lights now split. They've gone that slightly bulbous look at the front there, much more neatly integrated, I think, and more kind of parallel sort of like, you know, horizontal lines on the car that work really well. You get a new Citroën chevron there, so which harks back to the original Citroën chevron from, you know, a good few years ago. The only slight problem I see there is the slight blister of front-facing camera on the badge. I think that could have been more neatly integrated, Citroën. I think you could have tried a bit harder, just rather than have this great big wart in the middle of the badge. Your eyes immediately drawn to that. But other than that, I think it's a successful facelift. Like the chevron, sort of like, you know, sort of like front grille here with the radar guided cruise control. Obviously you've got that fitted. There's some good cooling down there and along here as well. There's some titanium finish colouring in there, really small integrated front fog lights there. You've got the upright gold clips in there that just give it a little bit of a lift as well, but you still get those lovely scallops on the bonnet as well, which I always liked about the original car. And of course it's a Citroën. You can really recognise it as being a Citroën. It's very distinctive in the marketplace. So yeah, I think we're off to a good start with this car. Now, inside profile, it's still the same EC4. And the original EC4 of this shape was designed to sort of like recognise the heritage of the old GS and GSA. And you really can see it, or at least I can. I really like that they've done this. Now you can have the C4 Max or EC4 Max, which is effectively a booted saloon version. So for those of you who are reminiscing about your old Ford Orion or Vauxhall Belmont, if you'd rather have a booted version, you can have that, and it's called the C4 Max. Personally, I prefer the look of the hatchback. I think it's a much nicer looking car, and as I say, it brings me in mind of the old Citroën GS and GSA. I have to apologise for the dirt on it, by the way. I took my daughter, we went over to Essex last week because she was on a scout camp in the middle of this forest, so I took her in this, but then I got straight back that night, and then the next morning I left for Scotland. Regrettably, I didn't take this. But there we go, that's for another time. 18-inch alloy wheels, you can see it does sit that little bit higher, doesn't it, like it used to. You know, it's got that almost crossover stance to it, but it is just a 5-door family hatch. And of course you get your sort of black plastic wheel arch extensions and then this lower sill section. My only regret is Citroën have done away with those lovely air bumps they used to have down the side of the Cactus. I wish they'd retained those because I really thought they were really nice and distinctive, and I liked the idea of the practicality of those. But there you go. You get that little gold sort of like fleck in there like you did in the front there, just that little bit there to bring it in mind. I really love this colour, Manhattan green. I think this is an excellent colour for the car. This has got the optional bi-tone, so you can have that as an option to have the dark roof, the black roof, contrast to the body colour. I think there's only 2 colours you can't have it in. And of course, again, as I say, the 5-door hatchback that reminds me of the old GS going into the new rear end. 18-inch alloy wheels wrapped in Michelin Primacy EV tyres, which give good balance of grip and ride comfort. So it's nice to see the Michelin brand on a French car, and of course these nice shapely mirrors just on the side there with the neatly integrated side repeaters. Good looking car. It's in the rear profile you really see that nod to the heritage with the old GS, GSA model. It was always the case with the EC4, and the new one does nothing to change that. But there's the new rear lights, and you can really see the inspiration from the Ollie concept in them with those protruding sort of like, you know, sort of like side indicators and marker lights there, and obviously rear lamps there and reversing lights there. Plinth across the back now, just with the new Citroën sort of like font across there. No chevron badge. Everyone's going for the spelling out the name across the back. Of course, you get a nice reversing camera just hanging below there above the number plate, so it's relatively sort of like free from getting dirt that you would get down there. Of course, you still get the part reversing sensors down there. 5-door hatchback unless you go for the Max, the saloon model. So of course the hatchback comes right down to bumper level, which is decent. And then of course you get your integrated rear spoiler, which does hinder rear visibility because it does cut across the back glass. And of course there's no rear wiper, but even I would admit it would look quite clumsy with the styling on this particular car. But other than that, it's the overall look that we've been used to with the EC4. Now I really like the look of this car. I like the fact that Citroën have managed to integrate those elements of the Ollie concept into this car. I like the fact that it also ties it in with the EC3 model without looking just like a bigger EC3. That's a very sort of boxy, very upright looking car. This is a bit more swoopy and, as I say, a bit more nod to the heritage with the GS models. But what do you think? It doesn't really matter what I think, does it? Let's be fair. It matters what you think, because you could be out there buying these cars. Maybe you've got an EC4, the old model. What do you think of the facelift? Would it tempt you to change? Do you prefer the look of your car? Do you prefer the look of the hatchback, or do you prefer the booted EC4 Max saloon? Which one did you go for? Do you like neither? Irrespective of what you think, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Very practical car this, I think. 380 litres of boot space is what you get from an EC4, from the 5-door hatchback one. And at first you go, oh, that looks a little bit shallow and stuff, but the thing is you can actually lower that boot floor. So if you need it just higher to get a nice entry and flat entry in, you've got it in that position, but we can push it down a little bit further. You get a 60-40 split rear seat, which will take total capacity up to over 1,300 litres, plus there is a small hatch load through as well. So again, if you're at your DIY store and you want to just put a longer shelf unit through or whatever, there's a small opening you can do that with. Right, so as I say, if you lift up the floor, there's some area underneath there that you can store things in, or what you can do is you can actually lower that down to lower the boot floor. Now, underneath here, the very bottom one, there's no spare wheel with the car, so you can actually store your cables in the spare wheel well. Now that'll be a negative for some people, but it's quite handy to be able to do that and take them with you. And as I say, then if you actually push that floor down, all the way down, you get much better height And you also get your 4 lashing points as well, plus some extra little pockets just down in there. You've also got some hooks to hang bags from there, and there's some elasticated side bits there for like warning triangles and stuff like. Right, suitcases, yes, they fit. There's our large one. Goes right up at the back there like that. Here's our medium one, and that one goes in there like that. And then we've got our first carry-on, which can actually now sit upright because of dropping that height down, and our second carry-on can actually just squeeze in there as well. So the 4 AutoEV suitcases do fit. Now remember as well, as I say, keep saying to you, you can also go for the C4 Max or EC4 Max if you do want that booted saloon. But just remember, in terms of the actual aperture you'd be loading into, you are limited with that. So maybe the 5-door one is the more practical of the two. And rear seat space, well, that obviously hasn't changed from the original car, which is to say it's all right actually. That's my driving position at 5'8". I have got bags of knee room. I can get my feet right underneath the seat and wiggle my toes around, so that's good. It's good for me for headroom. The only thing I will say is if you are taller than me, which let's be fair is not hard, you might just find it's just the way the roof is starting to slope back here a little bit, you might just find your head encroaching in and that. But what is nice is with the light headlining, it makes the car feel quite open back here. And you also get these rear little quarter light glass as well, so that's quite nice. Again, it lets just a bit extra light in. There's good storage. You've got mat pockets in the back there. You've got this upper pocket here as well. You know, the kids can drop their mobile phones into, or the Kindles in. There's only the one charging port. It's a USB-A charging port. That's downside. A couple of vents there, obviously for ventilation, which you can open and close. But the seats themselves are nice and comfortable. Now I'm going to talk about that when we move into the front, but there's a really nice comfort about the rear seats. You've got to put the head restraints up. That's the only thing. You've got to remember and do that, otherwise they'll dig into your shoulders. But yeah, there's a lot of comfort here. Now remember, I said there is a armrest that flips down that gives you another couple of cup holders there, plus a little slot. I don't know if I put a packet of Polar Mints or something. Plus, as I say, you can actually have a little load through as well. Your only downside is if you had a third person, there is a transmission tunnel, because obviously remember it shares a platform with a combustion engine car as well, because obviously you can get the EC4 with multi-energy drivetrains. So that is the only downside. And the other only downside that I always find is, again, typical Stellantis, the Isofix points are behind these silly zips. I wish they wouldn't do that because they'll just break. However, nevertheless, it's a good rear accommodation, I think, for the size of car that it is, and probably as much as most small families will need without moving up to sort of like an SUV or crossover. Right, I've jumped in at quite a few Stellantis group products of late, and you do sort of like see, you know, sort of like recognisable switchgear amongst them. There's starting to be a commonality there, but I have to say, with the C4, less of it. You know, there is much more individualism in here with the Citroën, you know, little individual Citroën controls. Yes, there'll be certain buttons such as the transmission toggle here and the drive mode button there and the electronic park brake there, you know, that you can see the column stalks, they are fairly familiar, but the rest of it feels really Citroën, and it's really, really good. So we'll start up here. You get your 10-inch infotainment screen that's up here, which has got wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Obviously it's got things such as inbuilt navigation, which is done by TomTom, which is fairly decent on its own. There's a couple of physical shortcut buttons here. So for instance, if you want to turn off your, say, your lane keep assist and your speed limit warning, you press this car button. There you go, lane keep assist, on or off. Oh, confirm. And I've got it turned off anyway because I had it off. So yeah, and then there's your excessive speed warning there. So nice and easy. Then you can go through your functions, so there's more of them in there you can go through. So automatic braking system, traction control, traffic sign recognition, blind spot alert, driver attention alert. So you can go in there and choose those. And then there's the tutorials, so it will tell you what they actually do, if that makes sense, so you know what you're actually talking about, what you're actually turning on or off. So I do like that, the little shortcut buttons. And the screen's nice, it's up in your line of sight. And also as well, it does have the physical climate control. So whilst you can sort of go in here and choose, you know, obviously you can choose your direction control, you can go into automatic climate. Hang on. Automatic climate, you know, and sync up in there. You've also got actual physical controls, which are down here, which I'll show you in a second. There's obviously a physical volume knob there, which is a bit of a stretch for the driver, but of course you've got it on the steering wheel anyway, so that's more for your passengers' use. Let me just discuss these ones down here. So there you go, you've got heated seats obviously on this model here, you've got dual zone climate, and I tell you what, the actual action of the controls feels really good. You know me, and I do love a tactile button and switch, and they feel nice, feel almost rubbery in the way that they just move from one notch to the next. Really nice. Plus obviously you push them for aircon or automatic climate or maximum aircon. And then you've got, as I say, your dials will do your, either side will do the temperature, that one will do fan speed, and then you get air recirculation, defrost the front screen, heated rear screen, and then maximum aircon, and then obviously over there is your heated driver's seat. Wireless charging pad, plus a USB-C and a USB-A port there. Plus you've also got this storage bin in here, which you can lift up, and that's sort of like double height. So if you want to hide your Mars bar or your Twix from your partner, you can do that in there. Just remember that's where you've hidden it. And then you've got this, and again, it's a nice rubber mat, so it's nice and sensible. Things don't say, you pop your keys in there, they're not going to be bashing about, you know, as you go around the corners. There's a prodigious use of piano black still, however. That's the only downside. And it's, of course, it's down this console area here and then up round here as well. That's the only maybe sort of like blight on it. It'd be nice to maybe see them change that, because again, you know, it just gets all fingerprint and dusty and stuff. Still, there's two cup holders there, which you can cover up as well. Plus, you've got a bin down there. It's not particularly long, but it's okay. I mean, it's probably deep enough for a family bag of Starburst. But then you move across to the passenger side. Excuse me. And you've got this little thing that pops out here that you can pop up an iPad on. You can buy a clip that pops up and holds a tablet in that position there. Plus then, if you then slide out, there's a drawer where you can hide things in as well. This one's got the actual user manual in it. That's really handy. Plus you've got a glove box as well, he says, which you can't, oh, there you go. A glove box as well. That's great, brilliant load of storage, plus door bins, which will take water bottles as well. So a really good amount of storage in the car, that's excellent. Oh, the driver's display in front of you, that's been slightly redesigned as well, and that's really clear now. So you can sort of like, you have a slightly different configuration depending obviously on what you want, but not much in fairness. You can show up various different things here, but it's really simple in its layout and it's really clear as well. So you get your speed at the top, your gear indication display, your battery percentage and your range down there, and obviously whether you've got doors open and stuff like that. This model's also got the head-up display. We'll talk about specs a little bit later on, but the head-up display is nice, and again, right in your line of sight. And you can adjust the level of it. There's a control down on your right, by my right knee, that means you can actually adjust it, and you can actually, if you don't want it, you can close it away as well, and you can adjust the brightness of it. So I do like that. 3-spoke steering wheel design, nice and simple in its layout, very comfortable to hold, slightly flattened off at top and bottom, and then of course you get controls around it for all the just the simple things. So cruise control over on your left, including the distance, you know, between you and the car in front, and then your media controls and telephone over on the right, and then just your usual 4 electric window switches and mirror controls on the door panel. Now, the seats. Okay, so with the C4, that was the sort of introduction of Citroen's Advanced Comfort Program. Now, cheesy name, yes, but trust me on this. This really works. This is a program designed by Citroën to enhance driver and passenger comfort in their cars. And it's not just about chassis and all the rest of it, it's also about the seats on the inside. If you have a look at these seats, when you actually stand and look at them, they look like they're over cushioned, they're overstuffed, because they seem to bulge up in the middle and stuff like that. And then there's this quilting thing on it as well. And then you sit in them and then you realise how comfortable these things actually are. You just, when I say you sink into them, I don't mean they're soft in that sense, but when you sit into them, you can just feel every little bit of your body where you think it might ache a little bit, down your lumbar, up around your shoulders, just underneath the backs of your thighs and things. These little cushions just seem to support in the right places. This is a really clever thing that Citroën have done, and I really applaud them for this. And we'll talk about it more when we drive the car. But first of all, these seats are excellent. They are probably one of the most comfortable seats that you can sit in this class of car. In fact, in many classes of cars, these are fantastic. And as I say, your body just seems to be held in the right place. And having done quite a few miles in these cars, especially as it was a really long drive the other night, quite late at night, you know, had a long day, take my daughter around the other side of the M25. She was going on a scout camp, you know, and late at night I was taken out there. And I just didn't feel tired. I just didn't feel achy sitting in the car. And it was actually quite a pleasure. And as I say, I regret not taking this car to Scotland over the weekend because of that, because it's such a comfortable car to be in. So a real plus point for me is the seats and the way that the car drives. But as I say, we'll talk about it when we drive it. But as I say, familiar dashboard if you've had a C4 before. I really like the layout of it. There's enough physical controls. They feel well. There's just a little bit too much piano black for me. That's the only downside. Other than that, good storage, good usability, good functionality, good interior. Now, there are 2 batteries available in the EC4 now. If you go for there's 3 trim levels. If you go for the U, which is the lead-in trim level, if you go for the Plus, which is the sort of mid-ranking one, you get the old 50 kilowatt hour battery, which Citroën says should give a range of up to 217 miles according to WLTP tests. This is a max, and this gets, as Citroën call it, the extended range battery. However, it's only 54 kilowatt hours, the battery, okay? So it's the newer battery that some of the Stellantis cars have already got. Now, they say it should do up to 257 miles in this car, according to WLTP tests. Now, in fairness, I charged this car up to 100% last night, and it's showing 100% still, and it's showing a range to go of 258 miles. It's not bad, in fairness, and as I say, it was relatively efficient on that long drive that I did the other night. So there we go. 100 kilowatt charging speed. That's still what you get with the car, okay? And it does mean you can go from 10 to 80% in round about 30 minutes. So again, it hits the benchmark as far as we're concerned. If you're charging the cars up from flat to full on a 7 kilowatt wall box, then it's round about 7.5 to 8 hours. So again, not too bad in fairness. And you can option it with a heat pump, which this car has, and faster 3-phase 11 kilowatt onboard charging, which this car has as well. So if you want a heat pump and you've got that faster 3-phase electricity at home with a more powerful wall box, you can option the car up to have that as well if you want. Now, normally when I do this driving section, I wait till I'm out on a bit of the open road and I start talking about power and stuff like that. But the reason I'm doing it before I get to the main road is down this road there are some speed bumps, and I just want to talk about, that was one there. I just want to talk about the Citroën suspension before we get out onto the main road. So this uses, as I say, the Advanced Comfort Program engineering thing that Citroën did. And it uses a thing called hydraulic cushions, okay, in the suspension system. So it's not a hydropneumatic system like Citroën used to use. It's standard steel springs. But what they have now is these hydraulic cushions in the bump stops. Now, I'm not going to tell you that it will go over a speed bump and you won't feel it. You will feel it, of course you will. But what it actually does is it just makes it so imperceptible there. If I come down here at this speed, which is up to 20 miles an hour, in another car, that would be quite a jolt. What these hydraulic cushions do is when the wheel goes into sort of like a full compression, so like, you know, it hits a speed bump and the wheel goes right up into the arch, so the spring compresses and it goes right up to the top. In most cars, that shock will then transfer into the structure of the car. What it does in the Citroën is it then goes into these hydraulic cushions, which then have a further bit of movement. These effective bump stops that are hydraulic cushions. So the energy that would normally be transferred to the structure of the car is dissipated before it gets to the structure of the car through this hydraulic cushion. It's a really simple thing, but it makes a world of difference. And it's not just on speed bumps, it's on just general driving around about that you can feel it. Honestly, this car is so comfortable. You know, you're talking about Mercedes-Benz EQS, you know, Rolls-Royce levels of comfort. That's what I'm done. I'm not being dramatic with that. I'm being deadly serious. That's how comfortable this car is. And if you've got those things in the suspension as well as these seats, the whole thing just feels just so comfortable to drive. It just irons out the road, it really does. Now there's a bit of the road further on that we normally test the car on, where, as I say, we'll feel the difference there as well. As I say, you can still feel the road surface. It's not absolutely ironing the thing out, but it just makes it so much more comfortable to drive the car. There is, oddly enough, a little bit of an element of the old hydrogen pneumatic Citroën feel to it. There's an element of it as you're going around the bend, you can feel the little bit of float and a little bit of the body movement you used to get in the old BXs and things like that. You can feel it in this. It's absolutely fantastic. An ID.3 can't touch this car for comfort. It really can't. A Volkswagen ID.3 cannot touch this for comfort. Right, let's talk about the power, because you now get a slightly different power rating depending on the model. So if you go for the lead-in U with the exclamation mark, or the Pure, the mid-ranking one, then you get the 50 kilowatt hour battery and the old 136 horsepower motor. Single motor, front wheel drive, hasn't changed that way. 0 to 60, I think it's just under 10 seconds. If you go for this, the Max, you get the bigger battery and you get a slightly more powerful motor. It jumps up to 156 horsepower. Ooh, steady on, I hear you all cry. It knocks a second off the 0 to 60 time. It's down to 9 seconds. It's fair to say this is not a road rocket, okay? It would be nice to have it a little bit quicker. If I'm being blunt, it'd be nice to maybe see it come down to around about the 8 seconds, just to be, you know, relatively competitive, dare I suggest, in the sort of like the marketplace. And you wouldn't be sacrificing the comfort just to have that. You really wouldn't. Right, but that's your power rating. That's what it's like. Okay, there is a couple of issues that we still have with the Citroën that we had originally with the C4, the EC4, and they are still there as well. The steering is a little bit vague. There's no getting away from that. As I say, you move the wheel around the dead ahead and not really an awful lot happens. You know, there's no real sort of, it doesn't really bite at the front end or anything like that. It is just a sort of like a little bit of vagueness around about the dead ahead. Can't get away from that. But as I say, this is no road rocket of a car. The other thing is the brakes. It's the age-old Stellantis braking system, I'm afraid. You know, so when you do go onto the brake pedal, there is that damp sponge feeling when you just, first of all, initially press it, where the car just feels like, oh, not a lot's actually happening. There's an element of travel in the pedal where nothing really happens, and then it bites. So it makes driving sort of like, you know, smoothly at lower speeds quite a bit tricky. You've got to just watch yourself. You know, you're coming up to a roundabout and you're thinking, oh, I'm braking, nothing's really happening, and all of a sudden you push a bit further and it just goes like that, it grabs, and it just, you know, really knocks you off your kilter, and it doesn't make for very smooth progress. So, you know, those are the two things that I would say are probably still, you know, still evident in the car. They've not changed that, which is a bit of a shame, because they've been there for a while and it really should sort that out, I think. Especially Citroën with the brakes, when they used to work off the hydrogen pneumatics. See, I'm coming up for this roundabout and I'm pushing the pedal. The car is slowing, but it's slowing down under, and then all of a sudden now it's stopping. That's what I mean. You just, all of a sudden it just goes, oh yeah, you need me to stop, and it just grabs the brakes at the last minute, and it just, it's a bit, yeah, anyway, there we go. You've got a B button down here, so like you used to get, so that's your one level of brake regen. That's it. You know, you just have that B, it's on or it's off. Now look, I'm not going to really criticise that, because as I say, I personally prefer to actually brake rather than let the car do it for me. So I actually do prefer the fact that you've got to use the brakes. But and it's quite nice, it does slow it down a little bit. So just coming up for that junction, for instance, all I needed to do was just lift off the brake a little bit, and it just slows it enough you can just tuck the car into the bend. But it's not real proper one pedal driving. There's no different levels of it if that's what you're used to and that's what you like personally. Yeah, you just press it again, it comes off. That's it. You've obviously got your drive mode button there, so you've got your usual suspects: Eco, Normal and Sport. I would personally suggest you stay well away from Eco, because it makes everything feel really dull and dead. Sport, leave it in Normal, don't be daft, just leave it in Normal, and the car will just deal with everything on its own way, and then you'll just get the benefit of what the Citroën is actually like, which is to say a really comfortable, really sensible 5-door family hatchback. That's what this car is. It's not trying to be anything different, and I'm really, really glad that it isn't. It is just exactly that, and it's all the better for it. As I say, there are a couple of faults with it. and I can criticise it, and dare I suggest I wish Citroën had really, if they had changed them, my goodness me, would this car feel really challenge the Megane, I think, as best in class. As it is, I still think the Megane is the better overall car, personally speaking, but there is no getting away from the fact that the main thing about this Citroën is its comfort level. It is phenomenally good in its comfort. I really like the driving position. I was saying that to you earlier. I really like the way that you sit in the car as well. And as I say, I drove around the M25 the other night, went all the way from Surrey round to Essex and back in the one night, and it was just, you know, it was late at night, I had a long day, and it was just, you know, it doesn't feel hard. You know, you're not sitting at a weird angle, the controls aren't in, you know, it's not like, oh, what's up here? Oh, that's how you turn the radio on, by pushing a button on the you know, next to the interior light or anything like that. None of that. It's just, you know, sensible stuff. It's just not a hard car to live with. It's an easy car to live with, and that's what I like about it. And dare I suggest as well, I didn't really talk about it when we were discussing the interior, but you know what I was saying about, you know, the Stellantis group cars that share an awful lot? The quality of the materials in the Citroen's really nice. It's much better than you get out of, say, the Astra. You know, and some of the smaller crossovers, you know, like we're discussing the Alfa Romeo Junior of late as well, that just feels really plastic inside, and they're trying to promote Alfa as a premium brand. Tell you what, Citroën feels far nicer inside. Just wish they got rid of that piano black veneer, that's it. Do you know what? I've just realised, I've just driven down this uncomfortable road and I didn't even know, I forgot I was here. That's how comfortable this car is. I've just gone down the really jiggly road and I didn't even realise we were on it. I was too busy chatting about materials and plastics. That's how comfortable this car is. So, as I say, yes, I'd like it maybe to have a little bit more performance. It would be nice just to have a slightly more acceleration. It's not really needed. Oh, hello. Just stop in the middle of the road. Emergency braking system works well. It's not really needed, the extra power. It would just be nice to have. But then if you did have it, you really would want slightly sharper steering, because I say the steering just is that little bit of vague. It just doesn't really inspire a huge amount of confidence. So don't try and make it into a hot hatch, is what I'm trying to say. Just dial it back, drive it normally, drive it like you would drive a family car, and you'll get the benefit of the rest of it. But the brakes could really do with just a little bit of attention, please, Citroën. I really think that, as I say, it's a very difficult car just to modulate that brake pedal to be smooth on it. And that's the one thing that was always there in the old car, and you haven't changed that, and that's a real shame, because, as I say, it just makes it difficult to be smooth with it. Other than that, there is very little to fault here. I like the fact that everything's up in your line of sight. There is nothing that's not in your line of sight in terms of instrumentation or infotainment. You've got a really nice head-up display dead in front of you that you can adjust for height as well, and you've got physical heater controls down here, so you don't need to worry about being on the screen to adjust that. So if you want to adjust your temperature, it's up and down on a physical control. You want to adjust the fan speed, it's up and down on a physical control. Volumes on the steering wheel, you don't need to use the button even over there. The rest of it falls neatly to hand. But by goodness me, is this a comfortable car. It's absolutely phenomenal what they've managed to do with a standard passively sprung car. And well done to you, Citroën, because you really are playing to your strengths. And this is a real strong showing, I think, in the family car market. Don't forget about this car. Don't forget about it. Don't go and buy the latest little crossover and stuff like that. Go and drive one of these. Even if you're going to go and buy a Renault Megane, have a drive in an AC4 and see if you prefer it. Because I tell you what, I bet a lot of people haven't even considered this car, and those people, I think, be really surprised how good this car is. This is a proper family car, but more than that, it's a proper Citroën. Right, now as I said, there's 3 trim levels available in the car, okay? You start with the U, which is YOU, and then an exclamation mark. Don't know why, but if you go for the U, then it's £27,650. That's not bad, is it? But bear in mind that does get the 50 kilowatt hour battery with the lower range. You then move up to the Plus, again with that 50 kilowatt hour battery, and that's 28,716. And then the Max, which we've got here, that's still just £31,500, 31,505. And it's the Max that gets the 54 kilowatt hour battery with the 257 mile range. Now, as tested, this car here is £33,055 because it's fitted with the bitone paint finish that I told you about earlier, the Techno Pack, which is the highway driving assist with adaptive cruise control, 15-watt phone charger, 360-degree parking camera as well, a heat pump, and the 11 kilowatt onboard charging. Okay, so that's pretty much as expensive as you can go on this car, 33 grand. That's not bad, is it? Now, as standard, you just get your 3-year warranty with Citroën, but they're starting to do what Lexus and Toyota do, which I'm quite impressed with, because for every time you service the car at your local Citroën dealer, they'll extend the warranty another year, up to a maximum of 8 years, which I think puts a bit of confidence back into the brand and makes those prices seem even better value for money. Now, obviously, this is a C-Sector 5-door family hatchback, and there are obviously a few to choose from. So obviously, let's just concentrate on those C-Sector 5-door family hatchbacks, because if we start bringing in SUVs and crossovers, we'll be here all day. So main rivals for the car that you're going to look at are things like the Vauxhall Astra electric, the Peugeot E308. Now, those are obviously Stellantis group cars as well that share similar underpinnings to this car, and bear in mind they're also multi-energy cars as well, so you can have those as sort of combustion engine, or you can have them as electric. The one advantage you do have with the Astra and the Peugeot is you can have them as estate cars. You can't have that in the C4, although you can have this, as I say, as the Max, the booted saloon. You can't in the others too. But I'd say probably suggest an estate car is probably more practical. Right, so that's your starter for 10. You've also got proper EV cars from the ground up, so things like the Volkswagen ID.3 and of course the Cupra Born as well. So those two cars, plus my favourite, the other French contender into this sector, which is the Renault Megane E-Tech. That's another car that's going to be considered as opposed to this one. We've seen new entrants come in from obviously from China, such as FMG, if we're going to class MG as being Chinese, and of course there's the brilliant MG4, and of course BYD also entered this market space with the Dolphin. So whilst we're always saying that SUVs and crossovers are taking over as family cars, there's certainly still enough C-Sector 5-door family hatchbacks that are all electric if you want to go down that route and retain a 5-door family hatchback. So here's what we like and also what we don't like about Citroën's revised EC4. Well, we like its new styling. We also like its interior design. It is phenomenally comfortable, which means that it's really nice to drive. And we think it's well priced, offering good value for money. We don't like, well, the steering and the brakes are still a little bit vague. We would question now whether a 54 kilowatt hour battery really is big enough for this class of car now. And whilst we appreciate it's not exactly a hot hatch, performance is only average. I've always really loved the EC4, and there's a reason for that, because for me it feels like a proper Citroën without going too quirky in some respects. There was an element of Citroën just not that long since ago where they were churning out quite bland cars. They'd sort of lost their mojo, they'd lost their way. But I also appreciate there's only so many people that are willing to put up with some of the quirks of Citroëns of old. And I think the C4, and then obviously the EC4 in its electric form, manages to combine the two really, really well. Now, don't get me wrong, there are more dynamic cars in this class. There are more practical cars in this class. But if all you want is just a good value for money, 5-door, sensible family hatchback that's nice to drive, that offers good value, it's well equipped, but most important of all, it's just really comfortable, then dare I say, don't overlook the Citroën EC4. It was good before, now it's even better. Thank you for watching another road test review on AutoEV. As always, please make sure you are subscribed to the AutoEV channel. If you're not, I'm going to come around and speak to you. Once you've done that, turn on your notifications so you make sure you get an alert when the next video is uploaded and it's gone live. If you've watched this review and you've enjoyed it, give it a little thumbs up, and of course, as always, don't forget, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you have an EC4? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? Did you choose something else instead of it? Why? let me know in the comments section. Have you never considered a Citroën before? Now you're thinking, actually, that ticks all the boxes. That's what the comment section is down below is for, so let me know down there. Now remember, we're across on all social media platforms as well, so if you're into your Facebook, your Instagram, your TikTok, your LinkedIn, your X, whatever it is, we're across on there as well. And remember, if you're looking for an electric car, if you're looking to buy one, maybe it's not a new Citroën EC4, I'll tell you what, these are cracking value for money as a second-hand car now. 10 grand will get you into one of the old cars, one of the sort of like first generation ones, and they're still fantastic. But you need to know a bit more about it. You need to know what it was like when it was launched. How do you find out? Well, here's how. Stay on the AutoEV homepage on the YouTube channel, and just at the top there, there's a magnifying glass. Type the name of the car you're interested in buying in that little magnifying glass. And of course, if it's been a new electric car in the UK in the last 6 years, then we've subjected it to the road test that actual car buyers do trust when it comes to choosing their next electric vehicle. And that, folks, there's no doubt about it, is the AutoEV one. All that remains for me to say is thank you once again for watching. Thank you for your continued support. I'll see you again soon.